who is going to make money? Look at next 5 years, 5, 10 years. Who's going to make money on the cloud? And I'll share this one factoid with you that I got this morning. It says, according to Bloomberg Industries, have to give a little pitch, the U.S. government is expected to spend $7 billion over the next 5 years in private cloud services. That's a 350% growth rate. I'm not sure any of your companies have that kind of growth rate. It might come close. But then the question is, who's going to make money?
Okay, so those who are serving enterprise, that is like everybody in the market understands that everybody wants to make money. Money is in large accounts. Large accounts means enterprise. Everybody will try to get into that space. That's the providers of infrastructure and platform. And then there will be new players in the software as a service subspace, which will try to disrupt existing players, like Salesforce is disrupting SAP. There will be other players. They will identify some companies who are doing it the old way and then apply cloud. Cloud is a distribution medium for software as a service. It's very easy to meet your access. So those companies will use that to get into that market. So these are the two categories that will make a lot of money in the next, say, 5 years.
Yeah, I fully agree, and we already see that at Salesforce. Our ecosystem of partners is already, making money out of the cloud, building the new application that you can find that will disrupt the way people do business today. So we are already observing that. Just a number, for instance. If you look at the average that an ISV gets out of our marketplace today, on average, they get about $500,000 per year, to compare to, for instance, the $7,000 that the Apple marketplace will generate. So that's an average, but it gives you an idea of what the opportunity is in the enterprise world. And I do believe that, like you, the enterprise is probably the gold mine that a lot of startups and a lot of companies have to definitely invest in. And that's the future of indeed making money in the cloud.
I really believe that the next industrial revolution, the next savings for the global economy will come from a better big data processing, a better looking through the data and extracting some knowledge which saves us some 5–10% of the global GDP. And if we just, who makes the most value here? Let's take the global GDP of whatever, $100 trillion. Let's say 10% of it could be improved with big data processing, which is what, $10 billion could be improved by 10%, which is $1 trillion of added value. And of that 1 trillion, maybe 10% should go to the people who do extract this value. So it's a $100 billion industry. And each of us, even if we took 1% of it, it's $1 billion for each.
It's very quickly becomes real money. Is it safe to say, maybe other than Amazon with their web services, that Salesforce is one of the first big cloud companies that's been enabled by the cloud?
Salesforce is definitely the first cloud company for the enterprise, for sure. We have been created in '99, believing that there is no reason that what the consumer world was having, meaning easy way of having access to information and buying products, won't be the same for the enterprise. So we decided to provide the same kind of experience to the enterprise. And in '99, it was kind of a bold bet because no one was really believing that it was possible. And 15 years later, we can see that Salesforce is quite successful and definitely the leader in the enterprise with regard to the cloud. So yes, I would say that we are the leader, of the enterprise cloud. We are providing solution as a service. We have a platform where our ecosystem can expand and build, solutions, and again make money out of the cloud. Since, as you say, the enterprise is the future for all those companies.
So So let me then ask Gene, what's the next great cloud company?
Well, how do you define cloud? Then again, let's go back. Do you define cloud as what already have happened, or an application of the cloud? So, like Salesforce, you were talking about Salesforce. Salesforce is the company. It's a cloud company. It's a cloud computing company, but it's a specific. It's providing business intelligence and uses cloud as an instrument. It uses as a distribution medium. It helps, say, distribute software faster, better, meter usage. If we're talking about what's the next company in that space which will use cloud to reach customers, then I have no idea. Like, I can't say, I don't know. But if, like, you look at the cloud space, those who are providing services within the cloud, those who are providing the platform for the companies like Salesforce to succeed, then I believe that the whole space will move towards more services, more complex services, more intelligence sold online, like Arkady is saying. Will it be in big data? Possibly. Another possibility that it will be more integrated services, something like Google, say, App Engine is doing, but with more services integrated within. Who is going to be again? I don't know. Just naming someone it's a better idea to predict, because I'm not good at predicting success of a specific company.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, well, when you ask, I'm starting thinking that specifically it's Yandex we should benefit the most, and the reason is very simple. I think that the most value in cloud or centralized services will come from big data processing. The big data processing algorithms has been developed best and foremost in the internet. Internet has become the industry where all these algorithms were fine-tuned to the way that they are by far the best. And we are just one of the few these big internet companies. And unlike other internet companies, we are much more hungry. For us, the next billion is a big thing. So maybe it should be companies like us. The challenge here, of course, for 15 years we were working with consumers, and it's a huge challenge to switch from serving consumers to serving businesses. B2B business is a completely different story.
But does that, my next question actually is, how have your companies changed? And that's, so let me use that as a lead-in. Is that move from consumers to businesses driven by the cloud, or is it just the natural course of things?
Again, we have developed some tools which we currently apply to just one industry in one territory, which is a little bit overkill. And yes, it's a nice market, and we should, of course, retain it, and we should continue growing there. It's fine. Yandex will stay a consumer internet company in Russia, CIS, and hopefully more regions. That's one story. But maybe aside of that, there should be another Yandex, a different company maybe, based on the same core technologies, but with a completely different processes which are targeted to B2B business. I had some experience back from the 90s when we built the largest distributor for Cisco on our territory. I think it should be something like that.
Well, what was the question?
The question is, how your company is a free cloud company, and now sort of as the cloud emerges and evolves, how do you make that transition, or is there a transition?
Well, the company that I work for, Badoo, didn't actually have that transition because it was essentially always an online company. And right now it doesn't maintain the cloud itself. Like we are more traditional, where we have 2 data centers where we are, which we're using. But if we talk about, say, the company which moves from traditional to cloud, then essentially what's being outsourced? It's essentially a form of outsourcing. Say if someone has servers and already has infrastructure, it's cost savings. Instead of maintaining this stuff yourself, you can have somebody else do it for you. Instead of hiring system administrators, database administrators, you can have somebody do this stuff for you, and you could focus on what's essentially important to you. In this case, like big data is something that is easy to sell, like Arkady is saying, because normally a lot of companies don't really do data analysis. Like, it's very surprising, but if you look even at the large company, it takes very different set of skills to set up infrastructure for processing big data. And these companies usually don't pay enough attention to that. But when somebody comes along and says, well, instead of hiring these people, training them, building your own infrastructure, why don't you use us and we will provide this intelligence to you? This is a very good proposition. So this big data is a good entry point into the traditional companies. Instead of, say, going the full way to switch to cloud infrastructure, you could start with something small like big data. I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah, I think that so big data is indeed and obviously a very interesting topic, but what is really interesting is where those data are coming from. Obviously, you have a lot of data flowing around, but they will be coming from all those connected objects. They will be coming from all those mobile. They will be flowing around. So how you manage to get some patterns, to identify some patterns out of those big data, that's the real issue. That's one. Two, everyone is connected. Everyone is social somewhere, somehow. Being social will enter the enterprise, and the enterprise is going to become social in a sense where you are going to see some kind of merge in between the network that we see today, the social network that we see today, with the social network that we have within the enterprise, and they will blend in somewhere. And again, with identifying those patterns, you will be able to provide more value out of those social networks. That's two. So I think that social, mobile, and cloud will contribute to kind of get value out of those big data and identify those patterns and kind of create a value out of it. So big data is great, but it's how you identify what you want to do with it and where the information is coming from that's kind of critical. And again, thinking about how those billions of connected objects will change the way we interact with the people behind those objects is critical.
Okay, so sort of getting a synopsis of what I'm hearing. It's big data, it's analytics, it's connectivity. What holds all of this back? What's the potential to, or what's the thing that will stop the cloud from achieving its potential?
I think the main, as I mentioned, the main challenge for us to be there is to switch the business model or to extend to another business model, as well as for the businesses to get to the fact that they may give their data for processing to somewhere. And there is a lot of issues with anonymity, with private data and so on, but they're all solvable. So I think it's just, it's not obstacles, it's just stages on the way.
In case of a narrow case, big data, yeah, I agree. It's mostly about people, educating people, because a lot of businesses simply don't understand they need it. And there is a lot of talk, consultants saying, hey, you need big data, and you have only maybe, I don't know, 20 gigabyte of data. That's big data. Let's do it. Let's roll out a Hadoop cluster, and we will charge you a lot of money for that. So education has to happen. Businesses need to realize that there is something useful to them in this new space, and providers have to become actually better. They have to understand what they're offering and what businesses need. For example, somebody like Google, for example, they offer their big data solution. Badoo bought on that promise, installed their analytics application, and it failed miserably. It just cannot handle that large volume of data, surprisingly. Google cannot handle, I don't know, like 20 million users. Strange, but it can. But if we look at the market as a whole, there is a pretty decent momentum. The market started again with, this was a classic disruption. If anybody read Clayton Christensen, this is the Clayton Christensen disruption. It entered the market very low. Now it's moving up market. The providers are learning how to sell to larger companies. Larger companies are learning how to how to utilize. And it takes time. Certain things are just difficult to build. For example, large enterprises have different needs than small companies because, for example, large enterprises need segmented networking, better reliability, availability across the world, better backups, better guarantees, and that takes time and infrastructure and capital investment and skills. So it's a natural process of growing the business. And, but the next revolution that is going to happen, that we haven't figured out yet how to do.